Every tech product from the 2000s that failed spectacularly. 1. Microsoft Zune. You held the brown Zune 30 in 2006 and felt the weight of regret. Microsoft spent over $200 million developing this iPod killer. It launched with a 30-gigabyte hard drive and a $249 price tag. The Squirt feature let you beam songs to other Zunes within 3 feet. You tried to share a track at a party and watched it fail live. The marketplace required Zune points, a currency nobody asked for. By 2009, market share sat at a pathetic 2%. You learned that being late with a slightly different color wasn't innovation. It was a masterclass in how not to challenge a monopoly. But storage wars were nothing compared to format catastrophes. 2. HD DVD. You bought the Toshiba HD-XA1 in 2006 for $499. The format war against Blu-ray cost the industry over $1 billion. HD DVD held 30 gigabytes per layer versus Blu-ray's 25. Warner Brothers switching exclusive support in January 2008 killed it overnight. You watched your movie collection become obsolete in months. Toshiba lost an estimated $160 million on development. Retailers pulled shelf space within 48 hours of the announcement. You felt the sting of betting on the wrong horse publicly. It taught you that superior specs don't win market share. But physical media failures were nothing compared to mobile disasters. 3. Palm Pre. You slid open the keyboard and heard the satisfying click in 2009. Palm invested 3 years and millions into WebOS development. The card multitasking interface predated iOS and Android by years. Sprint exclusivity limited sales to just 1 million units in year 1. You love the gesture navigation but hated the app drought. HP acquired Palm for $1.2 billion in 2010. They killed the hardware division 18 months later. You watched innovation die because of carrier politics. It was the tragedy of being too early with the right idea. But software brilliance couldn't save hardware blunders. 4. Motorola Rocker E1. You thought an iTunes phone in 2005 was the future. Apple and Motorola collaborated for 18 months on this disaster. The Rocker stored only 50 songs due to label restrictions. It used a sluggish 1.3 megapixel camera and 128 megabytes of internal memory. You waited minutes to transfer a single album via USB 1.1. Steve Jobs introduced the iPod Nano immediately after the Rocker launch. It felt like a deliberate sabotage of the partnership. You realized corporations would rather compete than collaborate. It was the awkward teenage phase of smartphone development. But music phones were nothing compared to gaming hybrids. 5. Nokia N-Gage. You held it to your ear like a taco and felt the judgment. Nokia invested $100 million marketing this gaming phone hybrid. Released in 2003 at $299, it required removing the battery to swap games. Only 20 titles launched with the device, despite EA and Sega partnerships. You tried to make a call while playing and dropped it instantly. Sales hit 3 million units, but failed to recoup development costs. Critics called it the worst designed product of the decade. You learned that 2 great ideas can make 1 terrible product. It was the cautionary tale of feature creep before the term existed. But awkward hardware was nothing compared to internet platform implosions. 6. Web TV. You sat on the couch with a remote and a phone cord in 1999. Microsoft acquired Web TV for $425 million in 1997. The $499 set-top box plus $19.95 monthly fee priced out most families. Navigation required clicking through 37 menus to read a single email. You watched the screen flicker as 56K dial-up struggled to load images. By 2001, broadband adoption made the concept instantly obsolete. 1 million subscribers couldn't save a fundamentally flawed premise. You felt the lag between vision and execution painfully. It was the first lesson that internet on TV wasn't the same as TV on internet. But browsing failures were nothing compared to portable media flops. 7. Sony Minidisc. You slid the tiny disc into the player and heard the mechanical whir. Sony launched Minidisc in 1992 at $500 per unit. The 2.5-inch magneto-optical discs held 74 minutes of 8-track compressed audio. Despite 20 million units sold in Japan, US adoption never hit 1 million. You paid $15 per blank disc while CDR prices plummeted. The restrictive DRM and proprietary format alienated early adopters. By 2003, the iPod's 5 gigabytes made Minidisc's 74 minutes feel archaic. You watched a superior physical format die to digital convenience. It was the last gasp of controlled media ecosystems. If your brain is already short-circuiting from these tech tragedies, there's a full timeline map with financial documents in the description. But portable audio failures were nothing compared to communication platform catastrophes. 8. Google Wave. You received an invite to Google Wave in 2009 and felt the hype. The platform combined email, chat, and document collaboration in real time. Google invested over 200 engineers and 3 years of development. The interface required 45 minutes of tutorial to understand basic functions. You tried to explain blips and robots to friends who just wanted email. User engagement dropped 90% within 6 months of public launch. Google officially discontinued development in 2012 after minimal adoption. You learned that solving problems nobody has is still a waste of genius. It was the ultimate example of engineering brilliance without user empathy. But software overreach was nothing compared to transportation tech hubris. 9. Segway HT. You saw the Segway demo in 2001 and believed the future arrived. Investors, including Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, put $50 million into development. The $5,000 price tag and gyroscopic sensors promised to revolutionize urban transport. Sales hit only 30,000 units in the first decade, versus projected 500,000. You tried to ride one on the sidewalk and got yelled at by pedestrians. City regulations banned them in over 80% of major metropolitan areas. The world-changing device became a tourist rental novelty. You watched hype collide with infrastructure reality. It was the lesson that technology can't legislate behavior, but transportation flops were nothing compared to proprietary media disasters. 10. Sony UMD. You popped the Universal Media Disc into your PSP and heard the spin-up. Sony launched UMD in 2004 with 1.8 gigabytes capacity per disc. Movies cost $20 to $40 and couldn't be transferred or ripped. The format sold only 10 million movie units versus hundreds of millions of iPod videos. You watched the battery drain in 45 minutes while watching a film. The loud disc loading noise embarrassed you in quiet public spaces. By 2011, Sony quietly discontinued UMD movies without announcement. You learned that convenience beats quality in consumer adoption. It was the death rattle of physical media in a portable world. But optical disc failures were nothing compared to 3D gimmicks. 11. Consumer 3D television. You put on the heavy glasses and saw the world pop in 2010. Manufacturers invested $500 million marketing 3D TVs at CES 2010. Active shutter glasses cost $200 each and required charging. Less than 2% of TV sales included 3D capability by 2013. You watched a movie and got a headache after 20 minutes. Content libraries offered fewer than 500 native 3D titles globally. By 2016, every major manufacturer quietly removed 3D from product lines. You realize that just because you can doesn't mean you should. It was the cautionary tale of solving a problem that didn't exist. But visual gimmicks were nothing compared to social platform implosions. 12. Microsoft Kin. You saw the Kin 1 and 2 launch in May 2010 with fanfare. Microsoft spent $500 million acquiring Danger Inc. to build these social phones. The devices required expensive data plans and lacked basic features like copy-paste. Next, Verizon discontinued the line after just 48 days on the market. You paid $200 for a phone that became a brick in months. Fewer than 10,000 units sold before the cancellation announcement. It became the fastest product death in tech history. You watched a giant stumble by misunderstanding its own audience. It was the ultimate lesson that social features can't save bad hardware. But mobile failures were nothing compared to gaming platform catastrophes. 13. 3DO Interactive Multiplayer. You saw the $699 price tag in 1993 and felt your allowance cry. The 3DO company licensed the hardware to Panasonic, Gold Star, and Sanyo. It promised CD quality audio and 3D graphics years before PlayStation. Only 2 million units sold versus PlayStation's 100 million. You played a game and watched the long load times between levels. The high console cost and expensive $50 game prices killed adoption. By 1996, the platform was discontinued after losing hundreds of millions. You learned that being first doesn't mean being best. It was the blueprint for how not to price a gaming ecosystem. But gaming failures were nothing compared to virtual reality disasters. 14. Nintendo Virtual Boy. You put on the red and black headset in 1995 and saw a monochrome world. Nintendo priced it at $179 to compete with home consoles. It sold only 770,000 units before discontinuation in 1996. The device caused eye strain and neck pain within 15 minutes of use. You tried to play Mario Tennis and felt the headache building. Only 22 games were released globally before cancellation. It remains Nintendo's only commercial hardware failure in company history. You watched a giant admit defeat faster than anyone expected. It was the lesson that immersion requires comfort, but VR failures were nothing compared to the ultimate educational tech disaster. 15. Apple eMate. You opened the translucent green clamshell in 1997 and felt the future. Apple priced the eMate at $799, targeting students with stylus input. It ran Newton OS and offered weeks of battery life on AA cells. Hello? Steve Jobs canceled the entire Newton platform just months after launch. Only 50,000 units reached consumers before the discontinuation announcement. You watched your future-proof device become obsolete overnight. The cancellation wrote off over $100 million in development costs. It became the symbol of Apple's pre-revival strategic confusion. You learned that even visionary products can die to corporate politics. It was the final lesson that surviving the 2000s tech Wild West required more than good ideas. The power light blinked off.